Fighting games, a genre that gained popularity due to its competitive playstyle, lovable cast, and Chun-Li. Yo, not that Chun-Li, not that Chun-Li. Ah, get everything away from me. Ah, oh, good, she's gone. Yeah, as I was saying, if it wasn't for fighting games, we wouldn't have had fond memories. And if it wasn't for one fighting game in particular, we wouldn't have had most of our beloved titles. And I just don't mean fighting games, but other genres as well. Yep, this is the story of Virtua Fighter, the first 3D fighting game. Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, join for an amazing episode of... So let's begin the story of Virtua Fighter with one of the head developers of the game, Yu Suzuki, a man who made multiple games for one of Sega's subsidiaries, AM2. He is different from other game devs because instead of thinking about games in a 2D perspective, he always saw his games in a 3D perspective and worked his way backwards to 2D, which was odd, but thanks to his odd sense of thinking, he made Virtua Racing, a racing game that impressed critics as they were impressed by the idea of 3D gameplay. Sega, seeing Suzuki's skills, they let him direct a 3D fighting game known as Virtua Fighter. It was released to arcades of units made by Lockheed Martin in December 1993. So before we talk about how it did financially, let's talk about what the game had to offer. It had 8 playable characters, each with their own fighting styles and backstories. We got a poster by Akira Yuki, a master of Baishi Quan, who is literally just Goku, as he just wants to find strong opponents. So if you just recently suffered from cancer, stay away from him. Pai-chan, a martial arts movie star and a master of Mizongi, who wants to prove herself to her father. She's like me for real. Let's continue before I start bringing painful memories about my dad. Speaking of dads, Pai-chan's dad is Lao Chan, a chef and martial artist that created his own fighting style, known as Hu Yon Quan. Fighting style, according to Google, that marries the power of the tiger and the grace of the swallow. It just sounds badass. Jeez, no wonder he won't let his daughter take away his dojo. She can't even master her own fighting style, so she just uses a pre-existing martial art. Well, I'll just disown her. Anyway, we also got Wolf Hawkfield, a Canadian professional wrestler who's base matched the Vegeta to Akira's Goku. Jeffrey McQuad, a fisherman from the down under who knows how to take down some salties with some good old-fashioned Pakrashan. I'm sorry. Kagemaru, a ninja with a lot of lore that gets explained in the sequels. Sarah Bryant, a college student from LA who's skilled at karate, savate, and jeet kune do. And I don't know which is more impressive, the fact that she knows free fighting styles or the fact that she knows jeet kune do, Bruce Lee's fighting style. Also, does that mean Bruce Lee is canon to the Virtua Fighter lore? And lastly, Sarah's older brother Jackie Bryant, a race car driver who's only skilled at Jeet Kune Do. Phew, there's a lot to go through. But now we can begin with the single player mode. It was a traditional fighting game gauntlet, but before you fought the final boss, you had to defeat your clone. Then after that you would run into the final boss, who are a genoid-like cyborg which can use a combination of moves from all fighters in the game. And if you're wondering what a genoid is, it pretty much means so you play the game using an 8-way joystick and 3 buttons that allow you to punch, kick, and block. You could also perform special attacks with set buttons like most fighting games. But since it does 3D, you can bring out your inner Taken and side roll. So yeah, base match Taken, but at the time it was revolutionary. So clearly it was a masterpiece of its time, right? Well, let's talk about that now. Its arcade game sold 40,000 units worldwide, making it roughly 600 to 840 million US dollars. If I were to equate that to today's economy, that would have been worth 1.28 to 1.76 billion dollars. So yeah, Sega loaded after this game's boom to popularity. It was even the highest grossing arcade game of 1994. Not only that, but it also was the top 5 in the US and one of the most popular games in the UK. And if that wasn't enough, it sold over 1 million copies on its Sega Saturn port. With that success, it wasn't surprised that Sega made multiple spin-offs, sequels, anime, and manga. But how did other game devs react to this? This game inspired Bandai Namco's Tekken franchise along with Tecmo Koei's Dead or Alive franchise. And it didn't just only inspire fighting games but also Sony. Yeah, that's right. The PlayStation guys are inspired by this blocky game, that blocky game, that blocky game. As many of the staff such as Toby Gard, creator of Lara Croft from Tomb Raider, Don Romero from the Quake team, and Fuamata Iwata, director of Shadow of the Colossus, have stated that VF inspired their works. And they weren't the only ones who saw the potential of 3D humans in video games, and Sony made it a goal to solely focus on 3D games. So if it wasn't for this blocky wonder, who knows if Sony would have gone pro 3D, or if Nintendo and Sega would still remain 2D. After all, if it wasn't for this game, we wouldn't get games like Sonic Adventure, Super Mario 64, or Pokemon X and Y. You know what, I wouldn't mind the world without 3D Pokemon games. But yeah, this game made an impossible niche into a staple in the gaming landscape, so much so that it was even preserved in the Smithsonian Museum of American History, a museum dedicated to storing great scientific discoveries. So yeah, this game is amazing as 3D gaming is an important part of video games. Well, that's all I have for today's episode of The First in Gaming. Hope you enjoyed this video enough to leave a like and possibly subscribe and ring the notification bell. Comment on what you thought about the video, follow me on Instagram, and check out my other videos. Anyway, later nerds.